It is difficult to overestimate the importance of this international conference, and I thank very much Dr. Mahathir Mohamad and the Perlana Global Peace Foundation for that. 11 years have passed since that tragic September 11, 2001, that changed the history of the world. All these years, we have been at war against international terrorism. A fifth of George Bush prophecy made a few hours after 9/11 has already come true. In fact, the then United States President said that a war is beginning which will last 50 years. Singular prophecy indeed, a revealing one. Since then, not a single terrorist has been found and sentenced in a regular trial. You could say that they are all dead. Maybe. In any case, no one has been charged. Some of them are in prison, but have not been judged. Even Osama bin Laden was never charged of the 9/11 events. The only new thing is that he has been killed in May 2011 for the 6th or 7th or 8th time. During all this time, we have met his image on the TV screens like an ectoplasm. Now, he is not any more useful and has been discarded, but the war is going on. The world has been told a story that does not stand the slightest verification. They told us that donkeys fly, and billions of people, this is a problem. Billions of people believe till now that donkeys fly, because they have the full control of the media mainstream. And this is the most worrying circumstance, because it means that they can and they will manipulate minds and hearts in the next years. They needed a new enemy to be created. The empire was entering a huge crisis with no way out, but they could not admit it, nor they could allow that the crisis became visible to everybody. Such an epiphany would have shown to the world that the empire could no longer control a new landscape where 1,000 desert of the Tartars was already surrounding his strongholds. The empire was, and is, deadly ill. It found a new enemy to cement the West around the United States, as the Soviet communism did during the Cold War. And the enemy was created with a masterful, monstrous show, Islam. And they won. No doubt they won. The endless war began, and we have seen the first 3 chapters: Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya. The 4th, Syria, is on the printing. 3, 4 wars which are going on are not yet finished. But for them it is not a problem. For them it is important not to win them. It's important to produce disorder and multiply fear. The next greater war is on the move against Iran. It is ready to start to the smallest detail. Every square inch of the Iranian territory has been mapped, and every dip in the ground was measured to allow cruise missiles to hit the underground targets. Tactical nuclear warheads will be used for that. They only need a pretext, and they will create it when the time will come. The Israeli rulers have already fixed the meeting for the next summer at large. when they will tell the world that Iran has the capability to make the bomb. And the fifth war will be done by the vindicator, the final killer of Osama bin Laden, the Peace Nobel Prize in advance, Barack Obama. Now it is time to say who they are. The best definition I found is coming from Paul Krugman, master of the universe. It describes them perfectly, even if Mr. Krugman certainly does not share my point of view about 9/11, which I understand because I am not a Nobel Prize in economy. They indeed were master of universe. But now they cannot control the universe anymore. This is their problem. And unfortunately, our problem too. There is, for instance, China, that they cannot dominate. Moreover, there are 6 billion people who today or tomorrow will not accept their domination. The balance of power has shifted dramatically, radically, in the last 10 years. The others, who are now strong enough to do it, do pretend to have their own piece of the pie, especially now when it is becoming clear that the ruler is not so reliable as it was in the past. And it is not only a matter of the others coming on the scene, not because they became wiser or smarter, simply because there are not enough resources. We are making a mistake when we believe that the crisis is only a financial crisis. It's not only a financial crisis. There are 5 or 6 big, huge, unprecedented crises going to the point of no return in the same time in the next 20 years. Food, water, energy, climate change, energy. For everybody in a world growing like they are dictating till now. There is no place for all these people. You need an endless war if you pretend to have an impossible endless growth. I would say, quoting Michael Moore, it's physics, not politics, stupid white man. September 9/11 was their victory, but a Pyrrhic one. The result was indeed only such a kind of delay. They delayed the explosion for 7 years. And in 2008, it reappeared, 10, 20 times bigger than that which began in 2000 with Enron corporation collapse or the dot-com bubble. What they wanted to hide then re-emerged with a virulence that was not possible to hide anymore. The contagion they spread has infected all the West. I don't say all the world, I say all the West, the golden billion. Now the engine is engulfed by a gigantic amount of virtual money, which is in fact a real debt of states and of families. And they have not any idea of how they can continue to dominate not the world, but just their world. Here we are. There is nobody able to pay the bill. Even the United States cannot pay the bill, when the GNP of the world is 20 times lesser than the amount of the derivatives volume. And they are continuing in pouring new virtual money. The Federal Reserve makes it, the European Central Bank makes it, the Bank of England makes it, the Bank of Japan makes it. It is the illusion of the quantitative easing. They in fact don't have another solution. They don't have any other solution. But this will mean in the short run that the US Treasury certificates will be no longer the safe haven they have been in the last 50 years. The safe haven for every storm where the default would have been impossible forever. The most secure place to save your money is suddenly becoming the most unsafe place in the world. The question is that the big machinery of development created with the globalization has stopped. and they have not another similar machine. The development achieved and exploited by the West in the last 3 centuries of human history has gone and will not be reproduced because there is an unescapable principle of physics. An infinite growth in a finite system of resources is simply impossible. We are facing limits of resources. The limits of resources are the limits of growth. We can try to prolong the agony producing virtual money, but it will simply produce a gigantic collapse. There is theoretically, very theoretically, a second option. Come to terms with the dominated in the past, beginning negotiation with them. Is another word. Recognizes that the balance of power shifted already toward East, accepting equal rights for all. But this option would require a huge change of mentality and of perspective. It would require such a Copernican revolution in their minds that I believe they are not capable to do, because it lays outside and beyond their mental horizon. What will happen, we don't know. Nobody knows. Neither those who have created this conundrum, because they remain arrogant and they want to dominate furthermore, nor their victims, that means we, blackmailed, subdued, deprived even of the illusion of democracy. Therefore, the most probable outcome will be either a guided, planified collapse of the financial system, which will burn out the gigantic burden of the virtual money, or a war, a big war, which they think will burn the entire building of the biggest trick of human history. The most worrying aspect of this scenario is that they believe that they will survive. They and their families and their friends. Who they are is now clear. They are the 9 bankers. The New York Times told us 2 years ago that we are secretly gathering somewhere in Manhattan to decide every month the fate of 800, 900 trillion of derivatives all over the world. The name is clear: Citigroup, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, Barclays, Union de Banque Suisse. They are the 16 bankers that every day at 11 o'clock decide in London the so-called London interbanking borrowing rate. They are huge states without a territory, like BlackRock or Barclays, which has a portfolio bigger than the GDP of Germany. All these people and their friends and their servants were in power in 2001 and are still in power now. No illusion, please. When we gather to study 9/11, to research the truth, to understand what happened 11 years ago, we are not making a kind of remainder of the past. Those who conceived 9/11 are in power. They are powerfully armed. They feel themselves in danger. They will try again. Therefore, we are watching the future. What will happen in the next years? Maybe in the next months, look at Gaza, Lebanon. Maybe in the next months, in any way, in the short run, we are discussing the survival of our children. Thank you very much. It is difficult to overestimate the importance of this international conference, and I thank very much Dr. Mahathir Mohamad and the Perlana Global Peace Foundation for that. 11 years have passed since that tragic September 11, 2001, that changed the history of the world. A revealing one. Since then, not a single terrorist has been found and sentenced in a regular trial. You could say that they are all dead. Maybe. In any case, no one has been charged. Some of them are in prison, but have not been judged. Even Osama bin Laden was never charged of the 9/11 events. The only new thing is that he has been killed in May 2011 for the 6th or 7th or 8th time. During all this time, we have met his image on the TV screens like an ectoplasm. Now he is not any more useful and has been discarded. All these years, we have been at war against international terrorism. A fifth of George Bush prophecy made a few hours after 9/11 has already come true. In fact, the then United States President said that a war is beginning which will last 50 years. Singular prophecy indeed, but the war is going on. The world has been told a story that does not stand the slightest verification. They told us that donkeys fly, and billions of people, this is a problem. Billions of people believe till now that donkeys fly because they have the full control of the media.